So welcome to this latest video 162 Maths, and in this video we'll be going over the practice paper 2023 Foundation Set 3 paper 1, which is a non-calculated paper. And as always, I'll include a question breakdown so you can see which question refers to which topic for your reference in case you find any of the questions a little bit challenging or a little bit of a struggle. So let's get started on this practice paper 2023 Foundation Set 3 paper 1, which is a non-calculated paper. So looking at question 1, it says write down 9/10 as a percentage. So many with these questions, what you want to do is, if you don't know the decimal conversion straight away, when converting to a decimal, we want the denominator over 100. So I've multiplied 10 by 10 to get 100. So I do the same to the 9, in which I get 90. So then the answer is going to be 90%. Then for question 2, it says write down one multiple of 12. So basically all you're writing there is any number in the 12 times table. Now you've got to make sure that you are actually writing a number, not just writing that statement that I've written. So e.g. you could write 12, 24, 36, 48, 60, any one of those numbers, but make sure that you are only writing one. It then says for question 3, here are a list of numbers, and the question is asking us to work out the mode. So the mode is the number that appears the most, and that's going to be 4. It then says work out the mean. So what we need to do is add all those numbers up. So I've got 3 plus 4 plus 4 plus 5 plus 6 plus 7 plus 8 plus 11, and you should make out that that's going to be 48. So I'm going to do 48 divided by how many numbers there are, which is 8. And that gives me an answer of 6. Moving on to question 4, it says how many centimetres are there in 3.5 metres? Well, I need to multiply that by 100 or move the decimal point 2 places. So I get 3.5, moving it 1, 2. So it's going to be 350 centimetres. For question 5, it's giving me a calculation for me to work out. So for this, I need to do 1,152 plus 476 first. So if I do that, I get 8, 12, carry the 1, 6 and 1. So then I've got 1,628, and then I'm going to subtract 139. So then doing that calculation again, let me choose different colours. So we've got to make sure the number above is bigger. So I've got 5, I've got 12, which turns to 11, and then 18, so that becomes 9. Then we get 8, and then we get 4, and then we get 1. So it's 1, 4, 8, 9. Moving on to question 6, we get the first part of a show starts at 8:05 p.m. It lasts for 45 minutes. What time does the first part end? So here we're just going to add 45 minutes. So it's 8:05 plus 0.45, and we get an answer of 8:50 p.m. Or you could write it using a 24-hour clock and write 2050. The next question then says after the first part there is a 20-minute break and the second part lasts for 35 minutes. What time does the second part end? So from 8:50 we want to add 20 minutes, and then we want to add another 35 minutes. So we're adding on a total of 55 minutes to 8:50, in which you should have the correct time of 9:45 p.m. or you could write it as a 24-hour clock of 21:45. Moving on to question 7, it says that a game is played with a fair spinner. The player spins the spinner twice and the score of the two outcomes is added. And the question is asking us to complete the table with the possible scores. So what we need to do here is just simply add the headings of this two-way table. So here we've got 14, 19, 25, 19, 24, we've got 30, we've got 25, 30 and 36. The next question then says work out the probability that the score is a square number. So which of these 9 numbers that I've written are square numbers? Well, 25 is a square and 36 is a square, so it's going to be 3 out of 9, and we can simplify that fraction as a third. Now it doesn't say for us to simplify our fraction, So any of those would be fine. You could even get away with writing it as a decimal, but just making sure that you are including that reoccurring symbol above the 3. Moving on to question 8, it says here is some information about 5 basketball teams, and it's given the away and the home wins. And the question is saying which team has the most home wins. So we're looking for which of the black bars are the highest. And that one is going to be Manchester. The next question then says which 2 teams had the same number of away wins. So what we need to do is look at the heights of the grey bars, and we should find that those 2 are going to be Bristol and Plymouth. And again, you can write those in any order. So if you want to write Plymouth first, that's absolutely fine. So it's just a case of, again, where most students went wrong with this particular question is they were looking for which of the total bars were the same. But no, we're actually looking for which of the grey bars is going to be the same. The next question then says how many more home wins than away wins were there altogether. So for this, what we need to do is we need to add up all of the scores together. So if I write home and adding up the home, we get the first bar, which is 7, the second bar, which is 4, third bar has 8, fourth bar has 5, and the fifth has 4 wins, giving us a total win of 28. Then if I do the away wins, so just counting the height of the grey bars using the scale, I get 6 for the first team, 5 for the second, 4 for the third, 6 for the fourth, and 1 for the last one, giving us a total of 22. So then the difference is going to be 28 minus 22, which gives me an answer of 6. Question 9.8 says solve x plus 17 equals 28. So what we need to do is we need to take the 17 over to the side and we change the sign, so it's going to be take away. So it's 28 take away 17, which gives me an answer of 11. Question 9b, we're getting rid of the 3, and the 3 is being divided. So to get rid of it, we need to do the opposite, which is multiply by 3. So p equals 6 times 3, which is 18. Moving on to question 10, it says plants cost £2.40 each. It says you can use the table to work out the cost of different numbers of boxes. Work out the cost of 3 plants. Well, 3 plants, well, it's £2.40 each. There's no discount offered if you buy in bulk. So it's just going to be 3 times 2.40. So again, you could do some multiplication, decimal multiplication, or you can just work it out in your head. But basically, all you could do £4.80 plus £2.40, add them all up, and you should have the answer of £7.20. Question 10b then says Ethan pays £52.80 for some of these plants. Work out the number of plants that he buys. So what we need to do here is do 52.80 divided by 2.40. Now for this, what we need to then do is if I convert that into a fraction, so I've got 52.80 over 2.4, we then multiply both sides by 10, so I then get, well, let's do 100, so I get 5280 over 240. I can then cancel the zeros out, so I get 528 over 24, which would have happened if I multiplied by 10 instead, in which then from this I can divide both numbers by 2 at least, so I get 264 over 12. I can then divide again by 2, which gives me 132 divided by 6, and then from this I can then do my bus stop, because I've now got a single digit. I don't need to do any long multiplication, long division rather. So I've got 0, I've got 2, remainder 1, and then 2, so the answer then is 22. Moving on to question 10c, it says use the table to write £9.60 to £12 as a ratio in its simplest form. Now, I don't know, I have to double check on how we actually use the table for this, but let's just go from this here. So again, we can't have decimals in a ratio, so we multiply both numbers by 10, so that becomes 96 to 120. And then because they're both even, I can just keep dividing by 2, so I've got 48 over 60. And then I can divide by 6, so that gives me 8 over 10, and then I can simplify further to give me my final answer of 4 to 5. Moving on to question 11, it says that a shopkeeper uses this formula to work out the cost of bags of oranges, and it's C equals 1.8 times N, where C is the total cost and N is the number of bags. And question 11a says work out the cost of 5 bags. So this is basically, we're replacing N equals 5. So C equals 1.8 times 5. So if we do 18 times 5, and stick the decimal point there, we get 5 times 8, which is 40, 5 times 1, which is 5, plus 4, which is 9, and so it's going to be £9. Then moving on to question 11b, it says there are 3 oranges in a bag. Work out the cost of 1 orange if they are the same price each. So here we've got £1.80 equals the price of 3 oranges. So if I do 1.80 divided by 3, and again you can either use the bus stop or you can know the answer, in which the correct answer is going to be 60 pence. Moving on to question 12, it says rearrange P equals R plus 3 to make R the subject. So what I'm wanting is R equals. So what I need to get rid of is this 3. And how do I do that? Well, I do that by doing the opposite of taking away 3. So R equals P minus 3. Question 13 says by rounding to the nearest 10, estimate the answer to 78 times 11.6 over 39. So what you want to do first is make sure you're rounding each of these 3 numbers to the nearest 10. So that's going to be 80 multiplied by 10 or divided by 40. Now 8 times 10 is 800 over 40, and then I can cancel the zeros. So I've got 80 divided by 4, which gives me an answer of 20. Moving on to question 14, it says that a point lies on the graph with the equation of y equals x squared plus x. The x ordinate of a point is minus 3. Work out the y ordinate. So what we're going to do is we're going to substitute x equals minus 3. So I end up with y equals minus 3 squared plus minus 3. Now minus 3 squared is positive 9. And then a plus and a minus become a minus. So y equals 9 minus 3, which is 6. Then moving on to question 15, I get, is 30 times 44 greater than 15 times 90? So what we actually need to do is actually work this out. So if I do 30 times 44, in which you could use any method you want. So here I get 0, and then I get 12, add a 0, 0, and then 12. So I get 1, 2, 3, 1. And then if I then work out 15 times 90, I get 0, 0, and then 0, and then 45, 9, 13. So I get one answer is 1,350. The other answer is 1,320. So is it greater? The answer is no. And then again, you could write 1350 is greater than 1320, or you could write 132 rather. O is less than 1350. So any of those would be absolutely fine if you're wanting to go a little bit extra in terms of your explanation. Moving on to question 16, it says work out 1/5 plus 7/10. So when we're adding fractions, we want a common denominator. So here, what's the lowest common multiple of 5 and 10? Well, that's going to be 10. So I don't need to do anything to the second fraction, but I do need to do something with the first fraction. So I'm going to multiply both of those by 2. So then the top numerator then becomes 2, and then that then becomes 2 plus 7, which is 9 over 10. Then for question 16b, here we're multiplying and give our answers a mixed number. So I want to do 3 times 7 over 5 times 2, so that's 21 over 10. And then how many 10s go into 21? That's going to be 2. What's the remainder? 1. What's the original divisor? 10. So it's going to be 2 and 1/10. Moving on to question 17, it says Leo is a barber. He charges £5 for a haircut. He charges 10% extra for hair gel. One day, 25 customers have a haircut. 16 of these ask for hair gel. Work out the total amount that Leo charges his customers that day. So what we need to do is split this question up into those who use with gel and those without gel. So looking at this, the ones with gel, well, we know that there's 16, so he's going to get now 10% of £5 equals 50 pence. So then the total cost is going to be £5.50. Now if there's 16 people having a haircut and ask for gel, then that's going to be 16 times 5.5. Now again, you can do any form of multiplying you want to do for this, but you should have a total of £88. Then if I do the same without gel, well, the number of people is going to be 25 minus 16, which is 9, so 9 customers, and they'll be paying £5 each, so it's 9 times 5, which is £45 rather. And then what I then need to do is then work out the total amount, which is going to be 88 plus 45, which gives me a grand total of £133. Question 18 then says solve x over 7 minus 3 plus equals 4. So what I need to do is get rid of the 3 first by adding 3. So then what I'm left with is x over 7 equals 4 plus 3, which is 7. Then I need to get rid of this 7 by multiplying by 7. So x equals 7 times 7, which is 49. Moving on to question 19, it says line A passes through -1, 2 and 1, 6. Straight line B has the equation of y equals x. Work out the coordinates of the points where the line AB crosses line B, and you may use the grid to help you. So first things first, let's start by plotting the coordinates of line A. So we've got -1, 2, which is here, and we've got 1, 6, which is here. So what I'm now going to do is just draw a straight line through each of those points. And there we go, so I can label this as line A. I then need to plot y equals x. So y equals x is going to be 0, 0, 1, 1, 2, 2, 3, 3. And then just need to draw a straight line through there. So let's see, that's actually not that bad. So then we can draw a line going through all of those points, and you can see that they meet at this point here, and I just need to write down the coordinate, and that's -4, -4. Then moving on to question 20, it says that a lucky dip stall players pick a ball at random from a tub and then replace it. Tub contains 180 red balls, 170 yellow balls, 50 blue balls, and Caroline has a go at the lucky dip. And the question is asking us, what is the probability that Caroline wins a prize on her first pick? So the prize is if you get a blue ball, you win. So how many blue balls are there? There's 50. And then how many balls are there altogether? Well, I need to do 180 plus 170 plus 50. So adding all of those up, 8 plus 7 is 15, plus 5 is 20, and so there are 400 altogether. So it's 50 over 400, and I can simplify that as 5 over 40, so that becomes 1 over 8. Now again, it doesn't state which, it doesn't tell us to simplify the fraction, so basically I can write any of those and I should get 4 marks. Next question 20b says Caroline has 16 goes at the lucky dip and wins 3 prizes. Is this more than what's expected? Well, let's have a look. So looking at relative frequency, well, the probability of her winning is 1/8, and if we multiply that by the number of trials, which is 16, we then get 16 over 8, which is 2. So she's expected to win twice after 16 goes. So then answering the question, is this more than what's expected if she wins 3 prizes? The answer then is yes. Moving on to question 21, it says the air pressure in a tyre measures 3.2 bars. Air is leaking from at a rate of 0.2 bar per day. Assume that the air continues to leak at the same rate. After how many days will the pressure measure 1.8 bars? So for this question, what we need to do is we need to take away 3.2 from 1.8, which leaves me with an answer of 1.4. And then we need to divide this number by 0.2. Now again, when dividing, sometimes you might find it easier to write as a fraction. So from this, we can't have decimals, so we multiply both numbers by 10, in which you get 14 over 2, which gives us an answer of 7. Alternatively, you could have done some division, whichever you prefer, but as long as you get the answer of 7, it's all good. Moving on to question 21, let me just zoom in because I forgot to zoom in from the graph question. And of course it's reset. And let's just go back to the question that we had here. So it says, in fact, that the rate of the air leaks decreases each day. How does this affect your answer in part A? So something along the lines of that it will take longer to deflate. So something along those lines would be absolutely fine for that 1 mark. Moving on to question 22, it says ABDE is a parallelogram and AB is equal to DC. And the question is asking us to show that angle X is 38 degrees. So looking at this, let's just first of all note what we know about parallelograms. Well, we know that we've got 2 sets of parallel lines, and we know that opposite angles in a parallelogram are equal. So from this then, if this angle here is 68, then I then know that this angle here is going to be 68 as well. Now using this information that AB is equal to AC, it tells us that this line must be equal to this line, so the triangle ABC must be an isosceles triangle. So that means that this angle here is going to be 68. And then I can then work out what this top angle is going to be. And this angle here is going to be 180 minus 68 minus 68, which gives me an answer of 44 degrees. Now, also what I know about parallelograms is I've got a Z angle. So I've got an alternate angle. And my alternate angle is this. So hopefully you can see highlighted in the sort of claret colour. So this 82 degrees is going to be equal to this. So this angle here is also 82 degrees. Now this angle is also known as x plus 44. So I've got x plus 44 equals 82. And if I take the 44 out to the side, I get an answer of x equals 38, which is what they wanted me to show. Moving on to question 23, it says that here are the third and fourth number of terms of a Fibonacci type sequence. Each term is the sum of the previous 2 terms. Show that the first term is 13. Well, for this term here, if I just call it x, then x plus 30 equals 47. So if I take away 30, I get that x equals 17. So I can rub out that and write 17. Now if I call this first term y, then I know that y plus 17 equals 30. And so taking away 17, I get y equals 13. So the first term equals 13, which is what they wanted me to show. The next question, 23b, it says here are the first and third term of a Fibonacci type sequence. Each term is the sum of the previous 2 terms. Write an expression in terms of x of the 5th term. So for this, if I want to work out this term here, well, I need to add x plus this equals this. So if I just start by calling it y, so I've got x plus y equals 5. Now I want to find out what y is, so I get rid of the x by taking away x, and so I'm left with that y equals 5 minus x. So then I can rub this out and write 5 minus x. Now, using the notion of a Fibonacci sequence where each term is the sum of the previous two terms, that this fourth term is going to be 5 plus 5 minus x, and if I simplify and collect the like terms, I get 10 minus x. Then if I then work out this fifth term, which is what the answer is asking me to do, I get 5 plus 10 minus x, which leaves me, and simplifying, with 15 minus x. So the correct answer is 15 minus x. Now moving on to question 24, it says Robin is attempting to work out the base of several right angle triangles, and here is his method, and he's used Pythagoras. The question is asking, does this method always give you an answer as a whole number, sometimes gives you a whole number, or never gives you a whole number? Well, looking at this, what you want to do is try and think of some examples. So using Robin's example, we can see that root 16 equals 4, which is a whole number. Now, if you've done some practice with Pythagoras, which I'm going to assume that you've done quite a lot, you can also then see, well then if y equals 10, and just pick two numbers, y equals 2, x equals 2, then substituting into this method, what we get is 10 squared minus 2 squared is 100 minus 4, which then gives us 96, and if we square root that, root 96 is not a whole number. So the correct answer we want to tick is going to be the middle ones. That the method sometimes gives you an answer which is a whole number, but not always. And you want to make sure that you are giving some arguments of where it is a whole number and also when it's not a whole number. Moving on to question 25, which is our last question. It says the diagram shows three routes, route 1, 2 and 3, between two towns A and B. The distance and average speed of each route is shown, and the question A is asking in which of the three routes is takes the longest time. Well, we know that time equals distance divided by speed. So then using this formula, if I then look at route 1, well, for route 1 I can see that the distance is 30 and the speed is 40, so that's going to be 30 divided by 40, which is 3 over 4, which as a decimal is 0.75 hours. Then if I do the same for route 2, so route 2, the distance is 45 and the speed is 50, so if I then do 45 over 50, I can simplify that fraction, so that becomes, divided by 9, becomes 9 over 10, which is 0.9 hours. And then for route 3, the distance is 50, the speed is 60, so I'm going to do 50 divided by 60, and then that will then therefore give me 5 over 6. And then if I do 6 to 5 to convert that into a decimal, so that goes 0, that goes 5, that goes 8, 2, and that becomes 3, remainder 2, and it's going to keep giving me 3, so that becomes 0.83 recurring hours. So which of these routes is the longest? Well, it's going to be route 2. So let me just write that as my final answer. So route 2 is the takes the longest time, I should say. There we go. Then moving on to 25b, it says Samantha and Daniel take the same time to travel from A to B. Samantha travels along route A 10 miles per hour faster than the average speed, and Daniel travels along route 2 but at the not at the average speed of the route. And the question is asking, does Daniel travel faster or slower than the average speed for route 2, and by how much? So first of all, let's look at Samantha. Now Samantha is travelling 30 miles. Now the average speed was 40, but if she's travelling 10 miles per hour faster, well then she's going to be travelling at 50 miles per hour. So then looking at working out the time, so that's going to be 30 divided by 50, which is 3/5, which is 0.6 hours. Now for Daniel, well, he's travelling along route 2, and route 2 is 45 miles. And we don't know what speed he's travelling at, so we're just going to call that x, but we do know that it takes the same amount of time, so it's 0.6. So in converting this into a fraction, we get 4.5 over x equals 0.6. So then doing a bit of rearranging, I get x equals 4.5 divided by 0.6. So then from this, I get 45 divided by 6. So then if I do a bit of division, I get, and how many 6 is going to 45? Well, that's going to be 7, remainder 3. And so it's going to be 75 miles per hour rather. And so from this then, what we get is that Daniel is travelling, so Daniel is travelling at 75 miles per hour. So and that is going to mean that he's going faster, and by how much, which is faster by 75 minus 50, which equals 25 miles per hour. So I just want to write that in the answer box space here of 25, and that is the end of this paper.